Can I ask you something? Who has stolen more from your destiny, your enemies, or your emotions? Think about it. How many opportunities did anger destroy? How many relationships did pride bury? How many blessings did fear delay? The greatest battles in your life were never fought with fists. They were fought inside your mind. There are people listening to me today who don't have a money problem. They have an emotional problem. You don't have a talent problem. You have a reaction problem. The devil doesn't always have to stop you if he can simply provoke you. He knows that if he can control your emotions, he can control your decisions. And if he controls your decisions, he can influence your destiny. Some of you have been crying over people who were only a chapter in your story. You've been angry over words that should have been ignored. You've been afraid of doors that God was already preparing to open. Your emotions have become the prison that your enemies never had to build. Listen to me carefully. Every giant that stood before God's people was defeated because someone refused to let fear become their master. Every miracle began when faith became louder than emotion. Today is not just another speech. Today is a wake-up call. Today, you will stop allowing temporary feelings to make permanent decisions. You will stop giving your emotions permission to sabotage your future. You are going to learn how to lead your emotions instead of letting your emotions lead you. So stand up in your spirit, open your heart, because by the time this message is over, you won't be controlled by anger, fear, anxiety, jealousy, bitterness, or insecurity anymore. Your emotions are real, but they are terrible leaders. And today, you're taking your life back. There is a dangerous moment in every person's life that often goes unnoticed. It is not when they fail. It is not when they are rejected. It is not even when they face impossible circumstances. The most dangerous moment is when they allow temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. Feelings are powerful, but they are temporary visitors. They come and they go like waves crashing against the shore. Yet too many people allow a passing emotion to determine the direction of an entire lifetime. They quit jobs they were meant to keep because they became frustrated. They destroy relationships they were meant to protect because they became angry. They abandon dreams they were born to pursue because fear whispered louder than faith. They speak words they can never take back because pride demanded to be heard. One emotional moment has the power to undo years of hard work if it is left unchecked. Can I tell you something that might change the way you see your life? Your emotions are real, but they are not always reliable. Just because you feel something does not mean it is true. You can feel like giving up and still be one step away from your greatest breakthrough. You can feel forgotten while heaven is arranging your next opportunity. You can feel weak while strength is quietly growing inside of you. Feelings are indicators, but they are terrible leaders. If you allow your feelings to become your master, they will take you places your wisdom never wanted to go. Think about how many regrets in life began with one sentence, "I wasn't thinking." The truth is people were thinking, but they were thinking through emotion instead of wisdom. Anger made them believe revenge would feel satisfying. Fear convinced them that staying comfortable was safer than pursuing greatness. Pride whispered that apologizing would make them look weak. Jealousy told them someone else's success somehow diminished their own value. Every destructive emotion disguises itself as truth. That is why emotional decisions are so dangerous. They feel right in the moment while quietly leading us toward regret. There are people listening today who have made decisions they wish they could erase. Maybe you walked away from someone who truly loved you because your pride refused to forgive. Maybe you gave up on a dream because disappointment convinced you that failure would always follow you. Maybe you allowed one season of pain to define your entire future. But hear me today, one emotional mistake does not have to become your lifelong identity. Every day you wake up, you are given another opportunity to make decisions based on wisdom instead of wounded feelings. You must learn the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is immediate, emotional, and often destructive. A response is thoughtful, disciplined, and intentional. Anyone can react. Animals react, but mature people respond. The strongest person in the room is not the loudest one. The strongest person is the one who has enough self-control to pause before speaking, enough wisdom to think before acting, and enough humility to admit when emotions are trying to take over. Imagine driving a car down a winding mountain road. Your emotions are like the weather outside the windshield. Sometimes the sun is shining, sometimes a storm appears without warning. But you would never hand the steering wheel to the weather. You keep driving because the weather changes while your destination remains the same. In the same way, your emotions may change from one hour to the next, but your purpose should never be determined by today's mood. Don't surrender your steering wheel to temporary feelings. Some people have built entire lives around emotions. If they feel motivated, they work hard. If they don't feel motivated, they accomplish nothing. If they feel appreciated, they give their best. If they feel overlooked, they quit. If they feel confident, they take risks. If they feel afraid, they hide. Their lives become a roller coaster because emotions constantly rise and fall. But successful people understand something different. They do not wait until they feel like doing what is right. They do what is right until their feelings catch up with their commitment. Your destiny requires discipline more than emotion. There will be mornings when you do not feel like getting up. There will be days when you do not feel like praying, studying, working, forgiving, or believing. If you only move when emotions cooperate, you will never reach your potential. Greatness belongs to people who continue walking even when feelings tell them to stop. Remember that emotions magnify the present while ignoring the future. When you are angry, it feels like revenge will solve everything. When you are afraid, it feels like avoiding the challenge will protect you. When you are discouraged, it feels like quitting is the only option. But emotions rarely show you tomorrow. Wisdom always asks, how will this decision affect my future? The question is not whether something feels good today. The question is whether it will still be a blessing 5 years from now. Some of the greatest victories in history happened because someone refused to make an emotional decision. They stayed when they wanted to leave. They forgave when they wanted revenge. They remained faithful when they wanted to quit. They believed when everything around them suggested defeat. Their emotions screamed one thing, but their convictions declared another. That is what separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Do not confuse intensity with accuracy. Just because an emotion feels powerful does not mean it is pointing you in the right direction. Fear can feel overwhelming while the opportunity before you is exactly what you've been praying for. Anger can feel justified while forgiveness is actually the key to your freedom. Sadness can feel endless while joy is waiting just beyond the next step of obedience. Never let the volume of your emotions drown out the quiet voice of wisdom. There is incredible power in learning to pause. Before sending that message, pause. Before making that decision, pause. Before ending that relationship, pause. Before quitting that assignment, pause. Sometimes one moment of reflection can prevent years of regret. A pause gives wisdom time to speak before emotion takes control. It allows your mind to catch up with your heart. It creates space for clarity to replace confusion. Your future is too valuable to be placed in the hands of temporary emotions. You were created for purpose, not impulse. You were designed to live by conviction, not by mood. Every day, life will present you with situations that stir your feelings, but you must remember that feelings are visitors, not rulers. They can knock on the door of your heart, but they should never be given the keys to your destiny. So when anger tells you to speak too quickly, choose patience. When fear tells you to quit, choose courage. When disappointment tells you that it's over, choose hope. When insecurity tells you that you are not enough, choose confidence in who you are becoming. Every wise decision you make weakens the power your emotions have over your life. And one day you will look back and realize that your greatest victories did not happen because life became easier. They happened because you stopped allowing temporary feelings to make permanent decisions, and you chose wisdom over emotion every single time. Fear has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. Failure teaches you. It strengthens you. It gives you experience that success alone can never provide. But fear keeps you from ever taking the first step. It convinces you to stay where you are, even when you know deep inside that you were created for something greater. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. Sometimes it disguises itself as caution, wisdom, or preparation. But if you listen carefully, you will discover that fear has one mission: to keep you from becoming the person you were born to be. Can I ask you a question? How many opportunities have slipped through your hands because you were afraid? How many conversations never happened because you feared rejection? How many businesses were never started because you feared losing money? How many gifts remained hidden because you feared criticism? Fear has a way of making us believe that the worst possible outcome is guaranteed, even when there is no evidence to support it. It paints pictures of defeat before the battle has even begun. The greatest prison in the world is not made of steel bars. It is built inside the mind. A person can be physically free and still be imprisoned by fear. They wake up every morning with potential, but they never release it because fear tells them they are not qualified. They have ideas that could change lives, but fear convinces them that nobody will listen. They carry greatness within them, yet they spend their entire lives asking permission from people who never had the authority to define them in the first place. Fear is a master exaggerator. It makes small obstacles appear like impossible mountains. It turns ordinary challenges into terrifying monsters. It convinces you that one mistake will ruin your entire future. But if you study your own life, you will discover something remarkable. Most of the things you worried about never happened. You spent sleepless nights imagining disasters that never arrived. You wasted precious energy fighting battles that existed only in your imagination. Fear steals today's peace by making you anxious about tomorrow's possibilities. One of fear's greatest weapons is delay. It rarely tells you to quit forever. Instead, it simply says, wait a little longer. It says, start next month, apply next year, speak when you're more confident, take the risk when everything is perfect. But perfection never comes. There will always be another excuse, another uncertainty, another reason to postpone your purpose. While you are waiting for perfect conditions, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass by, doors quietly close, seasons change, and one day you realize that fear didn't destroy your dream overnight. It slowly convinced you to delay it until it disappeared. Understand this truth. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move even when your knees are shaking. Every person you admire has experienced fear. Every successful leader has questioned themselves. Every champion has faced moments of uncertainty. The difference is not that they were fearless. The difference is that they refused to let fear make their decisions. They felt afraid, but they kept walking. They felt uncertain, but they kept believing. They felt weak, but they refused to surrender. Fear often speaks in absolute terms. It says, you will fail. They will laugh at you. You are not enough. You will never recover. But wisdom asks a different question. What if it works? What if this opportunity changes your life? What if this step of faith opens doors you never imagined? What if the struggle you're avoiding is actually preparing you for the greatest season of your life? Fear always assumes the worst, while faith remains open to the possibility of something greater. There are moments when fear becomes so familiar that people mistake it for their personality. They begin to say, I'm just not brave, I'm just shy, I'm just not a leader. They build an identity around the very thing that has been limiting them. But hear this today. Fear is not your identity. It is an emotion. It is a temporary condition, not a permanent definition. You were never created to live beneath the weight of intimidation. You were created with gifts, abilities, and purpose that deserve to be expressed, not buried. Think about the cost of allowing fear to stay in control. It doesn't just rob you of opportunities, it robs the world of what only you can offer. Someone is waiting for the encouragement you could give. Someone needs the business you could build. Someone could be inspired by your story. Someone's life could be changed by the courage you have yet to discover. When fear silences you, it doesn't only affect you, it affects everyone connected to your purpose. Life will never guarantee certainty. There will always be risks. There will always be unanswered questions. There will always be moments when you cannot see the entire path ahead. But you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Progress is made one decision at a time, one act of courage at a time, one victory over fear at a time. Every small step forward weakens fear's grip on your life and strengthens your confidence for the journey ahead. Do not wait until you feel completely ready. Readiness often comes after action, not before it. Confidence grows through experience. Strength develops through resistance. Wisdom is gained by walking through challenges, not by avoiding them. If you spend your entire life waiting until fear disappears, you may spend your entire life waiting. Sometimes the only way to overcome fear is to walk straight through the very thing that frightens you. Remember all the battles you have already survived. Think about every difficult season you believed would break you. Yet here you are, stronger, wiser, more resilient than you were before. The same strength that carried you through those moments is still within you today. Do not underestimate what you are capable of simply because fear is making a lot of noise. Fear may shout, but it does not have the final word. The greatest rewards in life are usually found on the other side of fear. Every meaningful relationship begins with the courage to be vulnerable. Every successful career begins with the courage to take a chance. Every transformed life begins with the courage to make one different decision. Your future is not waiting for someone who has no fear. It is waiting for someone who refuses to let fear become their master. So when fear tells you to stay comfortable, take the step anyway. When fear tells you that you're not qualified, keep learning and keep moving. When fear reminds you of your past failures, remind yourself of your future possibilities. Every moment you choose courage over fear, you become stronger than you were yesterday. And one day, you will look back with gratitude, not because the road was easy, but because you refused to let fear steal the incredible life that was waiting for you all along. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions a human being can experience. It rises quickly, burns intensely, and demands immediate action. It tells you to speak before you think, react before you pray, and fight before you understand. In the moment, anger feels like strength. It convinces you that raising your voice means you are powerful, that getting even means you have won, and that proving someone wrong is the greatest victory. But the truth is, anger often disguises weakness as power. It promises satisfaction but leaves destruction behind. It feels strong for a moment, yet its consequences can last for years. Can I tell you something that many people never realize? Every time you lose control of your anger, you give someone else control over your peace. Think about that for a moment. The person who insulted you may forget what they said within an hour, but if you allow anger to settle into your heart, you may carry that burden for weeks, months, or even years. They move on with their lives while you replay the conversation over and over in your mind. They continue sleeping peacefully while your nights are filled with frustration. Who is really suffering? The moment you allow someone else's actions to dictate your emotional state, you have handed them a power they never deserved. Anger is a thief. It steals clarity from your mind. It steals compassion from your heart. It steals wisdom from your decisions. Have you ever noticed how intelligent people can suddenly make foolish choices when they become angry? A single outburst can destroy a friendship that took years to build. One reckless message can end a career. One uncontrolled reaction can create wounds that never completely heal. The damage is rarely caused by the situation itself. It is caused by the way anger convinces us to respond. The problem with anger is that it demands immediate action. It doesn't want you to think. It doesn't want you to pause. It wants you to react. It whispers, say it now. Teach them a lesson. Show them they can't disrespect you. But wisdom speaks with a quieter voice. Wisdom says, wait, think, breathe. Not every battle deserves your energy. The strongest people are not those who can throw the hardest punch. The strongest people are those who can control themselves when every emotion inside them is screaming to explode. Have you ever sent a message in anger that you wish you could take back? Have you ever spoken words that echoed in your mind long after the argument ended? Words spoken in anger have a way of leaving scars that apologies cannot always erase. You may be forgiven, but the memory of those words often remains. That is why self-control is not weakness. It is wisdom protecting your future from a decision your emotions want to make today. There are people who believe that if they don't respond immediately, they are weak. They think silence means surrender. They believe that every insult demands a reply and every offense deserves revenge. But real strength does not need to prove itself. A lion does not lose its power because it ignores the barking of small dogs. It understands that not every noise deserves a reaction. Some battles are distractions disguised as opportunities. Some arguments are traps designed to steal your focus. If you respond to everything, you will eventually have no energy left for what truly matters. Anger has a way of making small problems become enormous. A misunderstanding becomes a broken relationship. A disagreement becomes hatred. A moment of frustration becomes years of separation. All because someone chose emotion over wisdom. But imagine what could happen if you learn to pause before reacting. Imagine the relationships that could be saved. Imagine the opportunities that could remain open. Imagine the peace you could experience simply by refusing to let anger become your master. One of the greatest signs of maturity is learning that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. People will misunderstand you. They will criticize you. They will judge you without knowing your story. They will question your motives. If you spend your life trying to correct every opinion, you will never have time to fulfill your purpose. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you, and no amount of explanation will change their minds. Let them think what they want. Protect your peace. Your purpose is more valuable than winning an unnecessary argument. There is a difference between righteous passion and destructive anger. Passion motivates you to solve problems, defend what is right, and stand for truth with wisdom. Destructive anger seeks to hurt, humiliate, and destroy. One builds, the other tears down. One creates healing, the other creates wounds. Before you respond to any situation, ask yourself, am I trying to solve this problem, or am I simply trying to release my frustration? That one question can save you from countless regrets. Remember that anger often reveals unresolved pain. Sometimes the reason a person reacts so intensely is not because of what happened today, but because today's situation touched yesterday's wound. A harsh comment may awaken years of insecurity. A simple disagreement may remind someone of past rejection. Healing begins when you stop allowing old pain to dictate new decisions. You cannot change what happened yesterday, but you can choose not to let yesterday control your tomorrow. Peace is expensive. It costs your pride. It costs your ego. It costs your desire to always have the last word. But it is worth every sacrifice. There is no greater freedom than lying down at night with a clear conscience, knowing you chose wisdom over impulse. There is no greater victory than walking away from a conflict with your character intact. Winning an argument is temporary. Protecting your peace is priceless. Understand that every emotional reaction trains your mind. The more often you explode in anger, the easier it becomes to repeat that pattern. But the opposite is also true. Every time you choose patience over rage, every time you remain calm under pressure, every time you refuse to answer insult with insult, you are strengthening the muscles of self-control. Character is built one decision at a time. Greatness is formed in moments when nobody is applauding, when only you know how much restraint it took to remain silent. People may mistake your calmness for weakness, but do not be deceived. It takes far more strength to control your tongue than to let it run wild. It takes greater courage to forgive than to seek revenge. It takes deeper confidence to walk away than to keep fighting. Your value is not measured by how loudly you can respond, but by how wisely you can remain composed. The world will always offer you reasons to be angry. Someone will disappoint you. Someone will betray your trust. Someone will speak against you. Someone will overlook your worth. But you must decide that your peace is too valuable to surrender. Do not let temporary anger rob you of permanent joy. Do not let one emotional moment define your future. The greatest victory you will ever win is not over another person, it is over yourself. When you master your anger, you reclaim your power. When you refuse to let rage rule your decisions, you become unshakable. And when you protect your peace instead of feeding your anger, you discover a strength that no enemy can ever take away. Every battle you fight in life is won or lost long before anyone else sees the outcome. People often think their greatest struggles are happening around them, in their workplace, in their relationships, in their finances, or in the challenges they face every day. But the truth is, the greatest battlefield is not around you, it is within you. The war that determines your future is taking place inside your mind. Before your hands move, your mind decides. Before your mouth speaks, your thoughts prepare the words. Before your feet walk toward success or failure, your thinking chooses the direction. That is why if the enemy can control your mind, he can influence your life. But if you learn to guard your mind, no circumstance will have the power to destroy your destiny. Can I ask you something today? Have you ever noticed how two people can face the exact same situation and respond in completely different ways? One person sees an obstacle and immediately gives up. The other sees the same obstacle and becomes even more determined. One person hears criticism and believes they are worthless. Another hears criticism and uses it as motivation to grow. The difference is rarely the situation. The difference is the battlefield inside their mind. Your life is not shaped only by what happens to you. It is shaped by the meaning you give to what happens to you. Your thoughts are seeds. Every thought you entertain eventually produces something in your life. A seed of fear grows into anxiety. A seed of bitterness grows into resentment. A seed of jealousy grows into hatred. But a seed of faith grows into courage. A seed of gratitude grows into peace. A seed of hope grows into endurance. The question is not whether you are planting seeds every day. The question is, what kind of harvest are you preparing? Every thought you allow to remain in your mind is quietly shaping the person you are becoming. Many people lose battles they never needed to fight because they believe every thought that enters their mind. But hear this carefully. Not every thought deserves your attention. Just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it belongs there. Thoughts are like visitors knocking on the door of your heart. Some come to encourage you. Others come to deceive you. Wisdom is learning that you do not have to invite every visitor inside. You have the authority to decide which thoughts will stay and which ones must leave. There are mornings when you wake up and your mind immediately begins speaking against you. It says, you're not good enough. You're too late. You'll never change. You'll never recover. Nobody believes in you. Your best days are behind you.
Those thoughts may sound convincing because they arrive with emotion, but they are still lies if they are not rooted in truth.
Your mind can become your greatest ally or your greatest enemy, depending on what you allow to remain there. The enemy understands something that many people overlook. He knows he doesn't always need to destroy you physically if he can first discourage you mentally. He knows that if he can fill your mind with doubt, fear, insecurity, and hopelessness, eventually your actions will follow your thinking. You don't wake up one day and suddenly quit your dream. First, you repeatedly think that you're incapable. You don't suddenly walk away from your purpose overnight. First, your mind becomes convinced that your efforts no longer matter. Every visible defeat begins as an invisible battle in the mind. Have you ever spent hours worrying about something that never actually happened? Your body felt exhausted. Your heart raced, your sleep disappeared, yet the situation you feared never became reality. That is the power of an undisciplined mind. It creates storms where there are only clouds. It builds prisons without walls. It causes you to fight imaginary enemies while ignoring the opportunities standing right in front of you. Your thoughts have tremendous influence over your emotions, and your emotions influence your decisions. If your thinking becomes unhealthy, your life eventually follows the same direction. That is why you must become the guardian of your own mind. You cannot stop every negative thought from appearing, but you can stop it from taking root. Imagine your mind as a beautiful garden. Every day weeds try to grow among the flowers. If you ignore the weeds long enough, they eventually choke the life out of everything beautiful. The same thing happens with your thoughts. If you ignore bitterness, it grows. If you ignore fear, it spreads. If you ignore insecurity, it begins to dominate every decision you make. But if you remove those destructive thoughts quickly and replace them with truth, your mind becomes a place where peace can flourish. There is incredible power in choosing what you focus on. Whatever captures your attention eventually influences your direction. If you constantly focus on problems, your problems will appear larger than they really are. If you constantly replay past failures, you will begin expecting future failure. If you constantly compare yourself with others, you will never appreciate the unique purpose placed within you. Your focus determines your perspective, and your perspective determines your response to life. Some people have allowed one painful experience to become the loudest voice in their minds. A rejection convinced them they would never be loved. A failure convinced them they would never succeed. A betrayal convinced them they could never trust again. They are living today's life through yesterday's pain. But one experience was never meant to define your entire future. Your past may explain your wounds, but it does not have the authority to determine your destiny. Every new day gives you the opportunity to think differently, believe differently, and live differently. Your mind is like a muscle. Whatever you repeatedly practice becomes stronger. If you repeatedly practice worry, worrying becomes natural. If you repeatedly practice complaining, complaining becomes your first response. If you repeatedly practice gratitude, hope, discipline, and faith, those qualities become part of your character. Transformation does not happen because life suddenly becomes easier. Transformation happens because your thinking becomes stronger than your circumstances. Remember that your circumstances are temporary, but your mindset determines how you walk through them. Two people may stand in the same storm. One complains about the rain while the other prepares to plant seeds that will grow because of it. The storm is identical, but the mindset is completely different. Your greatest victories are not always the moments when everything around you changes. Sometimes your greatest victory is when nothing around you changes, yet everything inside you does. Do not allow your mind to become a place where fear feels at home, where insecurity builds a throne, or where doubt writes the final chapter of your story. Fill your thoughts with purpose. Fill your heart with truth. Speak life over yourself when your emotions tell you to surrender. Refuse to let temporary setbacks become permanent beliefs. Every day, make the decision to think thoughts that build your future instead of destroying it. The battle will always begin in your mind before it appears anywhere else. Win the battle there, and you will discover a strength that no obstacle can overcome. Guard your thoughts as carefully as you guard your greatest treasures, because they are shaping your words, directing your choices, influencing your character, and preparing your destiny. The mind is the battlefield, but it can also become the birthplace of your greatest victories. The moment you choose to take control of your thoughts instead of allowing your thoughts to control you, you step into a new level of freedom, wisdom, and purpose. That is where true transformation begins, and that is where the life you were created to live finally starts to unfold. Offense is one of the most dangerous traps a person can fall into because it rarely introduces itself as an enemy. It usually arrives wearing the mask of justice. It convinces you that holding on to hurt is the right thing to do. It tells you that if someone wounded you, betrayed you, rejected you, or disrespected you, then you have every right to carry that pain forever. At first, it feels justified. At first, it feels like protecting yourself. But slowly, without you even realizing an offense, begins to shape the way you see yourself, the way you see others, and the way you see the world. Before long, what started as one painful experience becomes your identity. And when your pain becomes your identity, it begins to control every decision you make. Can I ask you something today? Who are you becoming because of what happened to you? Are you becoming stronger, wiser, and more compassionate? Or are you becoming bitter, suspicious, and emotionally distant? There is a tremendous difference between remembering a painful experience and allowing that experience to define your entire life. One teaches you wisdom. The other keeps you trapped in a prison built by yesterday's wounds. Some people have been carrying offense for so long that they no longer remember what peace feels like. They wake up thinking about the betrayal. They go to sleep replaying the argument. Every conversation somehow leads back to the person who hurt them. They are physically living in the present, but emotionally they are still trapped in a moment that happened years ago. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. At first you barely notice the weight. But as the days turn into months and the months turn into years, that burden begins to exhaust you. The tragedy is that no one is forcing you to carry it anymore. The person who hurt you may have moved on with their life, but you are still carrying the emotional baggage they left behind. Offense has a way of stealing your future while convincing you that it is protecting your past. It tells you not to trust anyone because someone once betrayed you. It tells you not to love deeply because someone once broke your heart. It tells you not to dream again because you failed before. It teaches you to build emotional walls so high that even the blessings meant for your life cannot reach you. You become so focused on avoiding pain that you accidentally avoid purpose, joy, meaningful relationships, and opportunities that were waiting just beyond your fear. The danger of offense is not only that it hurts you, it changes the way you interpret everything around you. A simple misunderstanding feels like a personal attack. Honest advice feels like criticism. Constructive correction feels like rejection. You begin expecting disappointment before people have even had the chance to prove themselves. You become suspicious of kindness because you have trained your heart to anticipate betrayal. Offense changes your vision. It causes you to see enemies where there are none and danger where there is only opportunity. There is something you must understand. What happened to you may not have been fair. The pain may have been real. The betrayal may have been deep. The disappointment may have left scars that no one else can see. No one is asking you to pretend those experiences never happened. Healing does not come from denying your pain. Healing comes from refusing to let your pain become your identity. You are more than what happened to you. You are more than your worst day. You are more than your deepest wound. The chapter of your pain should never become the title of your entire story. Many people spend years introducing themselves through their suffering. Every conversation returns to the same hurt. Every memory is filtered through the same disappointment. Every new relationship carries the weight of an old one. They have unknowingly become emotionally attached to their pain because pain has become familiar. But familiar pain is still pain. Just because you have carried it for years does not mean it belongs in your future. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood words in the world. People often think forgiveness means saying that what happened was acceptable. It does not. Forgiveness is not pretending the wound never existed. Forgiveness is not excusing betrayal. Forgiveness is not removing accountability from those who caused harm. Forgiveness is making the decision that the offense will no longer have authority over your life. It is choosing freedom over resentment. It is refusing to allow another person's actions to continue controlling your emotions long after the event has ended. Think about how much energy bitterness requires. It demands constant attention. It keeps old memories alive. It replays conversations that cannot be changed. It imagines arguments that will never happen. It steals your sleep, your peace, and your joy. Meanwhile, forgiveness releases that burden. It allows you to breathe again. It gives your heart room to heal. It creates space for hope to return. You cannot move into a brighter future while dragging the chains of yesterday behind you. Sometimes the person you need to forgive is not someone else. Sometimes it is yourself. There are people who have punished themselves for years because of one mistake. They replay every wrong decision, every missed opportunity, every failure. They believe they do not deserve another chance. They continue carrying guilt long after the lesson has already been learned. But hear this today, if you refuse to forgive yourself, you will continue serving a sentence that life never intended for you to serve. Learn from your mistakes, but do not build your home inside them. Every painful experience gives you a choice. You can become bitter or you can become better. Bitterness keeps your eyes fixed on the past. Growth keeps your eyes focused on the future. Bitterness asks, why did this happen to me? Wisdom asks, what can this experience teach me? One question keeps you trapped. The other moves you toward transformation. You will never find peace by waiting for everyone who hurt you to apologize. Some people never will. Some people do not even realize the depth of the wounds they caused. If your healing depends on someone else's apology, you have placed your freedom in their hands. Take your freedom back. Do not wait for perfect closure. Sometimes closure begins the moment you decide that your future matters more than your past pain. Life is too precious to spend it collecting offenses. Every day you remain offended is another day that joy has been delayed. Every day you hold on to resentment is another day your heart remains occupied by something that cannot produce life. Imagine what your life could become if you redirected the energy spent on bitterness toward your purpose, your family, your dreams, your faith, and your growth. The same heart that has carried pain can also carry peace. The same mind that has rehearsed hurt can begin rehearsing hope. One of the greatest signs of emotional maturity is realizing that not everything deserves a permanent place in your heart. Some people were lessons, not lifelong companions. Some disappointments were preparation, not punishment. Some closed doors protected you from paths that would have taken you away from your purpose. Looking back with wisdom allows you to appreciate that even painful seasons contributed to the person you are becoming. Today, make a decision that your identity will no longer be built on what someone did to you. Your identity is not the one who was betrayed. Your identity is not the one who was rejected. Your identity is not the one who failed. Those are experiences, not definitions. Refuse to allow yesterday's wounds to write tomorrow's story. Lay down the burden of offense. Release the bitterness that has been stealing your strength. Walk away from the prison of resentment and step into the freedom that has been waiting for you all along. Because the moment you stop letting offense define your identity, you begin living with a peace that no person can take away and a future that no past can destroy. There is a lie that has quietly destroyed the potential of countless people, and it sounds innocent enough to believe. The lie says, I'll do it when I feel like it. It tells you to wait for motivation before taking action. It convinces you that successful people are always inspired, always energized, and always emotionally ready. But that is not how greatness is built. Greatness is not built on feelings. Greatness is built on discipline. Feelings come and go like the changing weather, but discipline remains steady through every season. If you build your life on emotions, your progress will rise and fall with your moods. But if you build your life on discipline, your future will continue moving forward even when your emotions are trying to hold you back. Can I ask you something today? How many dreams have been delayed because you were waiting to feel motivated? How many books remain unread because you didn't feel like studying? How many opportunities passed you by because you didn't feel confident enough? How many prayers went unspoken because you didn't feel spiritual enough? Feelings are unreliable. Some mornings you wake up full of energy, believing you can conquer the world. Other mornings you wake up tired, discouraged, and uncertain. If your purpose depends on how you feel every morning, then your future is in the hands of emotions that change from day to day. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when every emotion inside you wants to do something else. It is getting out of bed when comfort tells you to stay under the blanket. It is remaining faithful when nobody is watching. It is continuing to work when there is no applause, no recognition, and no guarantee of immediate success. Discipline understands something that emotions never will. Today's sacrifice becomes tomorrow's reward. Look at the strongest people you admire. They are not successful because life always made them feel inspired. They are successful because they learned to keep moving when inspiration disappeared. Athletes train when they are tired. Musicians practice when they are frustrated. Leaders continue leading when they are exhausted. Builders continue building even when they cannot yet see the finished structure. They understand that excellence is not created in moments of excitement. It is created through consistent choices made over time. The problem with motivation is that it is emotional. It visits without warning and leaves just as quickly. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you question everything. But discipline does not ask whether you feel ready. Discipline simply asks what needs to be done today. It removes negotiation from the equation. It does not wait for perfect circumstances because it knows that perfect circumstances rarely exist. Imagine a farmer standing in his field saying, I'll plant the seeds when I feel inspired. Months pass. The seasons change. Other farmers are harvesting crops while his field remains empty. Why? Because feelings never planted a seed. Discipline did. Harvests belong to those who consistently sow, water, and work, even on days when they would rather stay home. Life works the same way. Your future is not determined by occasional bursts of enthusiasm. It is determined by daily habits repeated with consistency. Too many people fall in love with the idea of success, but refuse to embrace the discipline required to achieve it. Everyone wants the harvest, but few are willing to endure the planting season. Everyone wants confidence, but few are willing to practice when they feel insecure. Everyone wants victory, but few are willing to fight through discouragement. Success always has a price, and that price is often paid in moments when no one else is watching. There will be days when your emotions tell you that your efforts are pointless. They will whisper, you're not making enough progress. You're too far behind. You're wasting your time. But discipline answers differently. Discipline says, keep going. Growth is happening even when you cannot see it. Think about a tree growing beneath the ground. Long before anyone sees branches reaching toward the sky, roots are stretching deeper into the soil. Just because visible results have not appeared does not mean nothing is happening. Some of the most important growth takes place where no one can see it. Discipline also protects you from becoming a prisoner of your circumstances. If everything around you must be perfect before you take action, then you will spend your life waiting. There will always be distractions. There will always be unexpected problems. There will always be days when life feels overwhelming. But disciplined people understand that progress is often made in imperfect conditions. They refuse to allow temporary inconvenience to become a permanent excuse. One of the greatest battles you will ever fight is not against other people. It is against the version of yourself that always seeks comfort over growth. Comfort says, rest a little longer. Discipline says, take one more step. Comfort says, skip today's effort. Discipline says, stay consistent. Comfort focuses on immediate pleasure. Discipline focuses on long-term purpose. Every day, these two voices compete for your attention. The one you repeatedly obey becomes the one that shapes your future. Understand this truth. Discipline creates freedom. At first, that sounds backwards. People often believe discipline limits their lives. In reality, the absence of discipline creates limitations. A lack of financial discipline leads to debt. A lack of physical discipline leads to poor health. A lack of emotional discipline leads to broken relationships. A lack of spiritual discipline leads to confusion and instability. Discipline may require temporary sacrifice, but it produces lasting freedom. You cannot always control how you feel, but you can always control what you choose to do. Feelings may tell you to stop, but discipline tells you to continue. Feelings may tell you that you are too weak, but discipline quietly reminds you that strength is built through repetition. Every time you choose action over excuses, you are becoming a stronger version of yourself. Every small decision matters. Every consistent effort matters. Every disciplined moment is shaping the character that will carry you through future challenges. Remember that no one becomes extraordinary overnight. Great lives are built one disciplined day at a time. One workout, one chapter read, one prayer offered, one difficult conversation handled with wisdom, one promise kept, one temptation resisted. These small acts may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they create a life of remarkable strength and purpose. Excellence is never an accident. It is the result of ordinary actions repeated with extraordinary consistency. There will come a day when people look at your success and assume it happened easily. They will admire the results without seeing the sacrifices. They will celebrate the victory without knowing how many mornings you chose discipline over comfort, how many evenings you continued when you wanted to quit, and how many times you refused to let your emotions make your decisions. They will see the fruit, but not the roots. So stop waiting for motivation to arrive before you begin living your purpose. Stop giving your emotions permission to decide your future. Feelings will change, circumstances will change, seasons will change, but discipline will keep carrying you forward when everything else feels uncertain. The strongest people are not those who always feel courageous. They are the ones who choose to keep moving even when fear is present. The most successful people are not those who are constantly motivated. They are the ones who have learned that commitment is stronger than emotion, consistency is greater than excitement, and discipline will always accomplish what feelings alone never can. When you master discipline, you no longer become a servant of your emotions. You become the architect of your destiny. Comparison is one of the quietest enemies you will ever face because it does not arrive with loud alarms or obvious destruction. It enters your heart silently. It begins with a simple glance at someone else's success, someone else's lifestyle, someone else's relationships, someone else's achievements, or someone else's blessings. At first, it seems harmless. You simply notice what they have. But before long, admiration turns into frustration, appreciation turns into jealousy, and contentment begins to disappear. Without realizing it, you stop celebrating your own journey because you become obsessed with someone else's destination. The tragedy of comparison is not that someone else is succeeding. The tragedy is that you begin believing their success somehow means there is less available for you. Can I ask you something today? How many moments of joy have you sacrificed because you kept measuring your life against someone else's? How many blessings have you overlooked because your eyes were fixed on another person's harvest? How many opportunities have you ignored because you believed you were already too far behind? Comparison has a way of convincing you that your story is insignificant simply because it doesn't look like someone else's story. But the truth is, you were never created to become another person. You were created to become the fullest version of yourself. Every person you admire is living a chapter of their story that you can see, but you have no idea about the chapters they had to survive before arriving there. You see the victory, but you do not see the years of sacrifice. You see the confidence, but you do not see the battles with insecurity. You see the success, but you do not see the countless failures that taught them resilience. Comparison always compares your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. It measures your beginning against another person's middle. It judges your planting season by someone else's harvest. That is never a fair comparison because every life follows a different timeline. There is something dangerous about constantly looking sideways. Imagine running a race while staring at everyone else's lane. You will lose your balance. You will miss your own path. You may even stumble over obstacles that you would have easily avoided if your eyes had remained focused ahead. The race you have been called to run was never designed to be won by watching other runners. It is won by remaining faithful to your own assignment. The moment you become distracted by someone else's pace, you begin losing sight of your own purpose. Comparison also has a way of stealing gratitude. Instead of appreciating what you already have, you begin noticing only what is missing. You stop thanking God for the doors that have opened because you are upset about the doors that open for someone else. You overlook the relationships that truly love you because you envy someone else's popularity. You ignore the gifts already placed within you because someone else's talents seem brighter. A grateful heart sees abundance. A comparing heart only sees lack. The blessing has not disappeared, your focus has simply shifted. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that another person's success somehow limits their own future. They act as though life has a limited supply of opportunities, blessings, favor, and purpose. They think if someone else receives recognition, there is less recognition available for them. But life does not work that way. Another person's victory is not evidence that you have been forgotten. It is evidence that success is possible. Instead of allowing someone else's progress to make you jealous, allow it to inspire you. If it happened for them, it reminds you that remarkable things are still possible in this world. Jealousy is born when comparison remains in the heart too long. At first, you simply wish you had what someone else possesses. Then you begin questioning why they deserve it more than you. Eventually, if left unchecked, jealousy reaches the point where another person's blessing feels like your personal loss. That is a dangerous place to live because it slowly poisons your character. Instead of becoming excited when others succeed, you secretly hope they fail. Instead of learning from them, you resent them. Jealousy never improves your own life. It only steals your peace while leaving the other person's life completely unchanged. There will always be someone with more money than you, someone with more influence, someone with more experience, someone with more recognition, and someone who appears to have everything together. If your happiness depends on being ahead of everyone else, then happiness will always remain out of reach. There will always be another standard to chase. But contentment is discovered when you stop measuring your worth against other people and begin recognizing the value of the life you have been given. Your greatest competition is not another person. Your greatest competition is the version of yourself from yesterday. Are you becoming wiser? Are you becoming kinder? Are you becoming stronger? Are you becoming more disciplined? Those are the questions that matter. Success is not about surpassing everyone around you. Success is about becoming everything you were created to become. The moment you understand that, comparison begins losing its power over your heart. Remember that every gift serves a different purpose. A tree should never envy a flower because they were never created to fulfill the same assignment. The flower blooms with beauty. The tree provides shade and strength. The river should never envy the mountain, and the mountain should never envy the sea. Every part of creation fulfills its own purpose with excellence. Why should your life be any different? You dishonor your unique calling when you constantly wish you had someone else's assignment. What has been placed within you is exactly what is needed for the purpose you were born to fulfill. Sometimes comparison even causes people to abandon the very gifts that make them unique. They begin copying everyone else because they believe originality is not enough. They imitate another person's voice, style, or path instead of developing the abilities already placed inside them. But imitation may gain temporary attention, while authenticity creates lasting impact. The world does not need another copy of someone who already exists. It needs the unique contribution that only you can bring. Celebrate the victories of others without believing they diminish your own future. Applaud people when they succeed. Encourage them when they rise. Learn from their journey instead of resenting it. A heart that celebrates others remains open to joy. A heart filled with jealousy eventually becomes too crowded to recognize its own blessings. Every time you genuinely rejoice in someone else's success, you free yourself from the chains of comparison and create room for gratitude to grow. Do not let social media, public recognition, or visible achievements convince you that everyone else is winning while you are losing. Many people display their happiest moments while quietly carrying struggles no one ever sees. Every life contains battles hidden from public view. Stop assuming that appearances reveal the whole story. They rarely do. Focus on building a life of substance rather than chasing the appearance of success. Your journey is unfolding exactly one step at a time. Some seasons are for planting, some are for growing, some are for waiting, some are for harvesting. Every season has value. Do not rush the process simply because someone else appears further ahead. Fruit that ripens too early often fails to last. Trust that your timing has purpose. Trust that your preparation is not wasted. Trust that every lesson you are learning today is equipping you for tomorrow. Lift your eyes from someone else's lane and fix them on the path that has been placed before you. Your story has purpose. Your gifts have value. Your pace has meaning. The life you are building does not have to resemble anyone else's to be extraordinary. Celebrate what others have without questioning what has been prepared for you. Refuse to let comparison rob you of gratitude, peace, confidence, and purpose. The moment you stop measuring your life against everyone else's, you begin discovering the incredible strength, joy, and fulfillment that come from becoming exactly who you were created to be. There is a power that many people underestimate because it does not make headlines, it does not demand attention, and it does not shout to prove its existence. That power is silence. In a world where everyone feels the need to react, defend themselves, argue every point, and answer every insult, silence has become rare. Yet some of the strongest people you will ever meet are not the ones who always have the last word. They are the ones who know when their peace is more valuable than their opinion. They understand that not every attack deserves a response, not every accusation deserves an explanation, and not every battle deserves their energy. Sometimes the greatest victory is not proving someone wrong. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to allow someone else's negativity to control your emotions. Can I ask you something today? How many times have you lost your peace trying to win an argument that never should have happened? How many nights have you spent replaying conversations in your mind because you just had to have the last word? How many relationships have been damaged because emotions spoke faster than wisdom? We often believe that speaking immediately proves strength, but many times it only proves that our emotions are in control. True strength is not measured by how quickly you respond. It is measured by how wisely you choose your response. Silence is often misunderstood. Some people think silence means weakness. They believe that if you do not defend yourself immediately, you are admitting defeat. They think walking away from an unnecessary argument means you have surrendered. But silence is not surrender when it is guided by wisdom. Silence is self-control. Silence is confidence. Silence is emotional maturity. It takes very little strength to react. Anyone can react. But it takes incredible discipline to remain calm when your emotions are demanding a response. Imagine throwing a stone into a calm lake. The water ripples because something disturbed it. Now imagine a mountain standing against a storm. The wind howls, the rain falls, and the thunder roars, but the mountain remains unmoved. Which one demonstrates greater strength? The lake reacts to every disturbance. The mountain remains steady because its foundation is deeper than the storm. Your life should resemble the mountain, not the lake. People will throw criticism your way. They will misunderstand you. They will gossip about you. They will question your motives. But your foundation must become stronger than the noise surrounding you. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they are responsible for changing everyone's opinion. You are not. Some people have already decided what they want to believe before you ever open your mouth. They are not searching for truth. They are searching for conflict. The more you explain yourself, the more they argue. The more you defend yourself, the more they criticize. You cannot win a battle against someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. At some point, wisdom quietly says enough. Your peace is too valuable to be sacrificed on the altar of someone else's stubbornness. Have you ever noticed that people who are constantly looking for drama become frustrated when they cannot provoke a reaction? They expect anger, so they know how to continue the conflict. They expect frustration, so they know how to keep pushing your buttons. But when you respond with calmness, or when you choose not to respond at all, you remove the fuel from the fire. A fire without fuel eventually dies. Many arguments continue only because two emotional people keep feeding them, refuse to provide the fuel. Silence also gives wisdom room to speak when emotions are running high. The first words that come to mind are rarely the wisest ones. Anger wants immediate action. Pride wants immediate defense. Fear wants immediate escape. But silence creates space. It gives your heart time to settle. It allows your mind to think clearly. It invites wisdom into a situation that emotions would have rushed through. Many regrets could have been avoided if people had simply paused before speaking. There is something powerful about learning that you do not have to answer every insult. Every criticism does not deserve your attention. Every accusation does not require your defense. Every misunderstanding does not require a lengthy explanation. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you because it supports the story they have already written in their minds. No amount of explanation can convince someone who has already decided not to listen. Protect your energy. Save your voice for conversations where truth is actually welcome. Silence is not about avoiding responsibility. There are moments when you must speak with courage. There are times when truth must be declared. There are situations where justice requires a voice. But emotional maturity means knowing the difference between necessary conversations and unnecessary conflicts. Wisdom asks, will my words improve this situation, or will they simply satisfy my emotions? If your words only serve your anger, they will rarely produce peace. Many people spend years trying to defend their reputation before people who never intended to respect them. They become exhausted because they are constantly explaining themselves, correcting rumors, and chasing approval. But understand this, your character speaks louder than your arguments. Your consistency speaks louder than your explanations. Time has a remarkable way of revealing the truth. Those who know you by your character will not be easily convinced by false accusations, and those determined to believe lies will rarely be persuaded by your explanations anyway. One of the greatest signs of inner confidence is not needing constant validation. When you know who you are, you no longer feel pressure to prove yourself to everyone. Insecurity argues because it desperately seeks approval. Confidence remains calm because it understands that value does not depend on public opinion. You do not have to convince every critic that you are worthy. Your life will speak for itself. Think about how much emotional energy has been wasted over arguments that no longer matter. Conversations that once felt urgent have been forgotten. Opinions that once seemed devastating no longer carry any weight. Yet the peace you lost during those moments can never be recovered. Imagine how different your life could become if you stopped investing your emotional energy in temporary conflicts and started investing it in your purpose, your family, your dreams, and your personal growth. Every unnecessary argument steals time that could have been spent building something meaningful. Silence is often the language of wisdom, because wisdom understands that not every battle is yours to fight. Some situations are better left alone. Some people must learn their lessons without your involvement. Some misunderstandings resolve themselves over time. Every fight you avoid is not a missed opportunity. It may actually be a victory. Strength is not measured by the number of battles you enter. Strength is measured by your ability to recognize which battles are worth your time and which ones are only distractions. Your peace is priceless. Once it is disturbed, everything else becomes more difficult. Your decisions become emotional. Your relationships become strained. Your focus begins to disappear. That is why protecting your peace is one of the greatest responsibilities you have. Do not hand it over to people who thrive on conflict. Do not surrender it because someone wants to provoke you. Do not trade lasting peace for temporary satisfaction. The world will always offer you opportunities to react. Every day someone will test your patience, question your integrity, overlook your value, or challenge your character. But remember this, every reaction is a choice. You are not required to respond simply because someone else demands it. You have the power to pause. You have the power to remain calm. You have the power to choose wisdom over impulse. So the next time someone tries to pull you into unnecessary conflict, remember that silence is not weakness. It is strength under control. It is confidence that refuses to be shaken by noise. It is wisdom choosing peace over pride. Let your character speak louder than your anger. Let your consistency answer what your words do not need to explain. Let your purpose become more important than proving a point. Because the strongest people are not those who win every argument. They are the ones who know that protecting their peace is the greatest victory of all. When you master the power of silence, you stop allowing other people's behavior to dictate your emotions, and you begin living with a level of freedom that no argument, no insult, and no criticism can ever take away.